Do you often wonder where your time goes in the day when the important tasks are still pending, or your typical day looks like you wake up in the morning, do a few things here and there, and before you even know it, your day is gone? Well, chances are you have been wasting your time on one or more things without even realizing it. So in this video, I want to talk about 21 common time wasters where you could also be wasting your time. And knowing about it is the first step towards minimizing the time you spend on them. So let's get started. The first one I want to talk about is spending too much time on social media. If you look at the statistics, an average person spends about 140 minutes of their day on social media, which is like 2.5 hours in the day. So 2.5 hours is a significant amount of time you could be wasting on social media. Now, social media to some degree is helpful. It helps us connect, socialize, and is also part of our career and business strategies nowadays. I'm talking about the other side, which is the infinite scrolling feed, all those endless posts or videos that we keep watching and we don't even realize how much time we are spending on them. I'm talking about that aspect because that's where people tend to spend the majority of their time. And all the social media platforms have this because they all want to keep you engaged with the content, so you spend more and more time on their platform. It's a constant battle all across those platforms. So if you could actually limit your time on social media to, let's say, 1 hour a day, if it is 2 hours that you are also spending, then you could actually get back 1.5 hours of your day, which you could utilize on doing more important things. Maybe that dream projects you wanted to start, maybe that book you want to write, maybe that hobby you wanted to pursue. And I'm talking just about the average 2.5 hours. You could be spending even more time on that. And how you know about it? You could simply check your screen time, where you could see which app you are spending most of your time. And then accordingly, you can take measures to minimize your time on that. A good way to do so is actually to keep your phone away for some time, because that's the most common medium of access to social media, because we all have our phones and it's very much kind of like a habit nowadays. You just pick up your phone and then immediately, even subconsciously, you are just opening social media accounts and spending your time. I mean, how often does it happen to you? You wanted to spend just 5 minutes on social media, but you ended up spending, an hour on it without even realizing it. And it's not just the waste of time. It leads to further indirect waste of time when it leads to mental fatigue. Studies suggest that a lot of social media, especially those random posts and reels, they cause mental fatigue. They make you more confused because you are consuming so much different content. You are changing context with every video you are changing. It's putting a lot of pressure on your mind. It's burdening your mind to process so much information. It slows you down. So eventually you are losing your focus. You are becoming slow at work, which is leading to more time consumption on doing other important things in life. So it has a bigger impact than we even imagine. So limiting your time on social media would be the first step towards saving a lot of your time in the day. But the other useful way to limit your time is to actually make it more difficult to access social media. So if you're on your laptop, you just log out of all the accounts. So you would have to log in every time you want to access. If you have your phone, just keep it away somewhere, maybe lock it for some time. And then there's also a useful strategy called deep working hours, where you're basically having 0 hours of distraction and you are just focusing on one thing at a time. It could be your work, it could be whatever you do, which is important and part of your goal. Deep hours, they help you make quicker progress as you are focused, and focus gets things done more quickly. The next common waste of time is always saying yes. I mean, do you find it difficult to say no to people even if you don't have the energy or time to do something, just out of the guilt that you might disappoint them, offend them, or make them feel bad? You could be actually wasting a lot of your time, because every time you're saying yes to something unimportant, you are saying no to something important. And that could be your personal goals, your rest, your health. It's okay to help other people, but that shouldn't come at the cost of your own time or energy. And you don't always have to say no, but you could always propose some other time or some other solution to them. So let's say if a friend asks you to join a football match during the weekend, but you have an important project you need to focus on, you could respectfully say them no. Like, I would love to join, but I'm busy this weekend. How about next weekend? I could join you at that time. If they really respect you, they will understand you. And a lot of times when, those things are not even making sense, or you don't even want to watch any football match, You could simply say no respectfully that, I'm not interested in that. A lot of time what happens is we overthink how people are going to take it. We overthink that they are going to be offended, they are going to be disappointed. Well, in reality, they could just be fine, especially if they understand you. The third common time waster is perfectionism. This is when you are spending too much time on little details that are not important and you could be just overdoing them. For example, you're making a presentation maybe just for your team internally. It's not a client, so it's not too important, but then you are spending so much time perfecting each and every slide. Or you are maybe rewording an email that you are trying to send 10 times before you send it. So you could actually be wasting a lot of your time in overdoing those things, over-analyzing, over-researching, everything that you are doing too much, which is not really making a significant impact on the output or on the end result. It just could be a waste of time. Perfectionism is actually an illusion. Nothing is perfect in this world. There could definitely be better versions. The best way to actually overcome it is to really get started, because a lot of time perfectionism also leads to procrastination, where in perfectionism, what you tend to do is you set extremely high standards and you just want something to be flawless, which then gives you fear that you might mess up things or anything which is less than perfect will not be good. So you have that immense responsibility that you have to make it perfect. And that's when you just delay it and you don't even start. So you procrastinate and you waste a lot of time under stress that you are procrastinating, you are not getting started. The best way is to actually get started. Start messy, set good enough as a standard, and realize where you could be spending or wasting your time, those minor details which are not that important. This way you could actually save a lot of your time, because in my case also, I had that perfectionism mindset and I used to spend a lot of my time on things which didn't really matter. So when I realized it, I was able to save a lot of my time, and that I could actually put on making more progress towards other things which are important in life. In fact, studies have shown that perfectionists are more likely to struggle with procrastination, anxiety, and burnout. One very useful strategy to overcome perfectionism is to set time limits or deadlines. When you set time limits, you know that you could only spend this much time and you are less likely to overspend time on those things. And like, for example, you're writing that email and you just give yourself 30 minutes to write it, so you don't spend extra 40 minutes or 50 minutes on rewording it, especially if it's not that important. And when you are using those time limits, you also make use of a timer. It could be there on your phone or it could be on your watch, and you just turn it on every time you are starting to work on a task. So that will constantly remind you of the time that is passing, and it will also beep when the time is complete, so you would know. But this is really very helpful in making progress and also limiting the time you could be overspending on perfectionism. The next common time waster is procrastination. Now, there could be different reasons to procrastinate. It's quite common among people, but you could be wasting a lot of your time in the day procrastinating. Now, one of the reasons I just talked about is perfectionism, where you are setting extremely high standards and trying to make something flawless, and that fear is not letting you get started. Then there could be fear of failure, there could be overthinking, there could be overwhelm, multiple reasons for procrastination. I created a complete video, you can check it out here. That video goes more into detail in understanding procrastination, which will help you identify the real reasons behind procrastinating, because it's not just about laziness, unlike common belief. There could be lots of different reasons behind that. And when you understand procrastination, I also talk about the steps you could take to overcome it. And if it is something very common and taking away a lot of your time in the day, overcoming it will help you save that time. But in general, procrastination leads to huge waste of time. It used to in my case as well, until I started overcoming it. I used to waste a lot of time in the day. And not just the time, it also leads to a lot of stress. When you're procrastinating, you are under stress and anxiety because you are not working on something that's important and that's giving you that stress. The next common time waster is worrying and anxiety. Now, worrying is like sitting on a rocking chair. You might be busy, but it's not getting you anywhere. So, when you spend your time worrying about things, you are wasting that time, because often that involves thinking about the past, which you can't control anymore, or thinking about the future, which is again uncertain. So when you spend too much time reminding yourself of the past mistakes or maybe about the future worries, you're not really making any progress in your life. You could actually be spending that time more on thinking about maybe planning for your future, maybe working towards your goals, making progress. Remember that many of us waste hours stressing over things we can't control, like how others perceive us, the past, the future, what might go wrong. Even in some scenarios, we think about all the possible wrong things that could happen. Like if you are going to meet someone and you are like, what if they don't like me? What if I make mistakes? What if I, don't speak well? All those things lead to a lot of time wastage, and it's also leading to a lot of negativity, lower self-esteem, low confidence, all of that. It's making your life even more difficult. And importantly, most of these worries are not even real. I mean, how many times has it happened that you worried too much about something, but it turned out to be not as bad as you thought it might be, and you were like, you just worried in vain. If you are someone who worry a lot, it's time to overcome it. It's time to minimize your time spending on worrying about things, especially which are not in your control. So let me tell you an interesting study by Dr. Robert Lehigh, who found that 85% of what we worry about never actually happens. So next time when you start worrying, ask yourself, can I take an action to fix this? Is it in my control? If the answer is yes, then you take the steps or you start spending time on resolving this, thinking about all the possible solutions. The next one we have is indecisiveness. This is when you spend too much time thinking before making a decision. And this is a real waste of time, especially on small choices that don't really matter, like what you're going to wear at work, what you're going to have for lunch, what you're going to have for dinner. Should I reply to that message now or should I wait 15 minutes? All those things, those small choices, if you don't spend too much of your time, you could free up your time in the day and your mental energy. So the best way to do this is to actually limit the time you're spending on that, or simply limit the choices. When you limit the choices, you make it easier for you. So for example, the clothes that you wear for work, just create a separate section for those, so they are not mixed with the clothes that you wear on occasions or clothes you wear at home. So this makes it easier for you to decide if you have, let's say, 5-6 pair of clothes, which one you are going to wear at work. Or let's say you could even define on which days you wear which clothes, and likewise your meals and other stuff in your life where you tend to spend too much time overthinking. Studies show that making too many choices throughout the day reduces willpower and decision-making ability. So depending on how commonly you are indecisive or how much time you spend on taking a decision could define how much time you are wasting in your day. The next one we have is multitasking. Now, multitasking doesn't really make you more productive. It rather makes you less productive. A study by Stanford University found that people who multitask are 40% less efficient than those who focus on one task at a time. When you are multitasking, you are switching context quite a lot. So you are, let's say, working on one thing and another thing at the same time. Human brains aren't really designed to focus on two important things at the same time. It only creates a divide in focus, so you are actually becoming slow at both the tasks, due to which you are spending longer to get them completed. Whereas if you are focusing on just one task at a time, you can be very quick at it because you are getting into that state of flow and you have this workflow which is keeping you going. It makes you more creative as well. So instead of multitasking, try deep working hours where you just focus on one thing at a time without any interruption, and you will see how much more quickly you are able to get things done and save a lot of your time in the day. So don't waste your time multitasking. Only a few things are okay where one thing requires the least amount of focus or it's the least distractive. Like for example, you're washing the dishes and you are listening to an important podcast. Or you're doing a meeting and you are chopping vegetables, So, those things could still be okay, but otherwise multitasking isn't really a good use of time. The next one we have is checking your phone constantly. And this is a common habit among people. An average person checks their phone about 96 times in the day. And out of those 96 times, how many times would it happen that you just get distracted by those notifications, those social media messages, maybe those endless scrolling feeds you get into every time you open your phone? It could be part of your habit. It's very distracting, and that's why it can be a big time waster for you, depending on how many times you open your phone and how many times you are getting distracted by it and spending your time on all those unimportant things. Now, the best way to reduce your time is to again keep your phone away, like I previously mentioned, or you could actually use do not disturb modes quite a lot, especially when you are on something important. Or you could also limit the notifications on all those unwanted apps or things, or the apps that you don't really need. You can just maybe uninstall them or reduce the notifications. You could also try scheduled summary of notifications, which is a feature you would find on phones. So you only get those notifications around certain hours of the day and they get consolidated. And one of the common reasons I usually check my phone is to know what time it is. And for that, I've started using a watch because that's the quickest way and it prevents me from opening my phone and getting distracted. So it has helped me minimize the number of times I'm actually checking my phone. And I'm also trying to be more aware of it. So every time I pick up my phone, I remember that I am just going to be wasting my time, so I put it back. The next common time waster is not planning your day. When you're not planning your day, you could be wasting a lot of time thinking about or reminding yourself of what you need to do next. So let's say you just finished writing an email and now you're trying to remember what you were supposed to do next. And when you don't have your day planned, you're also likely getting distracted by other unimportant things. Like, for example, you had to send that report to a client, but you couldn't remember, and you are now maybe watching TV, and you later realize that you were supposed to send that report, but you have already wasted your time on something less important. And maybe now you are working on that report, so you don't have time for other important things in the day. So it's very important to plan your day. It keeps you focused, because if you knew that you were supposed to send a report to a client, there are very few chances that you would actually watch TV. You would have actually got the important thing done first. Research shows that people who plan their day get 30% more done than those who don't. And planning your day doesn't have to take a lot of time. Just spend 5 to 10 minutes writing down all the important tasks you need to do in the day. And maybe you could do that before the day starts, before you are basically going to bed. You just plan your day, what you are going to do tomorrow, or in the morning if you are making it, what you are going to do in the day, and that will help you save a lot of time. The next common time waster is discussing other people or gossiping. Now, this is a time that is not productive, not leading to any learning, not really making any progress towards your goals. It's a pure time waste, because during this time you're only discussing people and things that are not really important in your life. It only makes you more negative. And on an average, people tend to spend about 30 to 60 minutes of their day in gossiping. So if you could actually get back that time, you could do more important things. And the best way to minimize the time you spend on discussing other people is every time you feel a conversation is steering towards gossiping, you just change the topic and start thinking about what other important matter you could discuss. And if you have people around you who are gossiping all the time, try to limit the time you spend with them. And if you are that person who are gossiping, you must limit your time on it, because it's not really leading to anywhere. It's only making your life more and more negative and therefore more difficult. So gossiping is another common time waster. The next common big waste of time is watching late night series. Now, watching series in itself is a huge time waste, because series are much longer than movies and they are very engaging or very addictive. We know that every episode ends with something more curious, and then you are tempted to watch the next series. Now, if you are doing that in the day, you would possibly limit it, because you would know that you have some important things to do. But when you are doing it at night, it's even worse, because then you are just thinking that maybe I would sleep 1 hour later and I'll just watch this series, and you often tend to spend, let's say, 4 hours or 5 hours in the night if you are binge watching, and you might just be sleeping at, let's say, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. at night because you were just watching those series. And what really happens is, in addition to the time you're spending on watching those series, because at night it feels like, okay, you would reduce the time you're spending on your sleep, which is definitely leading to a bad health. And if you are compromising on your sleep because of the series, the next day you are either waking up late, you are not focused, you have that mental fatigue, so it's leading to more time waste on the next day. So watching series not only wastes time, but it also wastes your energy. The next common time waster is constantly checking your emails. Now, this might look like not a big waste of time, but if we talk about the statistics, they suggest that an average person checks their email around 15 times a day. While it may feel productive, this habit breaks focus and wastes time. So it's better to set dedicated time to check email, maybe once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and you could always have those notifications turned on. So if there's an email, you will automatically be notified and then you can check it. So depending on how often you are checking emails, it could be a waste of your time. The next common time waster is online window shopping. This is the time you're spending on browsing through all the different products that are available. And it's also a common habit nowadays. Just like social media, you could be opening those shopping apps and seeing all the different products that are available. And in addition to the waste of time, it also leads to waste of money or finances, because you could be buying things which are not important to you. And again, there's a lot of integration these days on social media. Among those random posts, you could be seeing those random products to buy. And then also those shopping websites now have social media kind of element where you have the different posts, those articles talking about different stuff, and they're trying to sell it to you, making it look very important, but actually it may not be. And especially if you're spending a time, going over things which are not what you're looking for, which are not what you really need right now, it's only creating desire. It's only making you waste your time because it's not something you need to buy right now. And you could again be spending that time on something else. And you could also maybe set day of the week or some hour in the day when you are spending that time on shopping something. But if it is disrupting your workflow, if it is kind of becoming a distraction, it's leading to a lot of time waste and a lack of focus. The next common time waster is watching TV while eating food. Now, it's a waste of time in two ways. Number one, before you even start eating, you are spending a lot of time choosing what to watch. It is quite common. It used to happen to me as well. I would sometimes waste 15 minutes in choosing what to watch really. And the second way is when you have finished eating, and if something is interesting you are watching, maybe it could be a movie of 3 hours, high chances are you would continue watching it even when you have finished your meal. So both ways it leads to a lot of waste of time. So you need to identify how much time you could be spending in choosing that episode or whatever you want to watch, and then after eating, how much time you are wasting on continuing to watch what you are watching. So the obvious way to limit this is you already plan what you are going to watch when you are eating food, and once you have finished eating, make it a point to just get up after it so you don't spend your time watching it. The next common time waster is aimless meetings. All those discussions with the team which are not very important, they are without any agenda, or you are discussing something which is not important, or overspending time on things which may not matter really. A Harvard Business Review found that 71% of managers say meetings are unproductive and inefficient. So all those daily huddles, all those discussions which may be avoided, if you are spending time on those, if you are attending those unwanted meetings or even those webinars, you could be wasting a lot of your time in the day. The best way is to actually plan an agenda before the meeting starts and stick with it. Now, I agree that sometimes it may not be easy to avoid meetings when maybe there are other people involved. So you could either suggest that you stay absent from it if you don't have anything to add to it, and you just maybe keep the recording or some transcriptions which you can then later review when you have time, or even use something like ChatGPT to summarize it and save a lot of time of meeting, which would basically condense an hour-long meeting into a 5-minute notes. So I think that could be very useful. Other way, if you are in charge of creating that meeting, keep it short and focused. Keep an agenda and stay with it. This will help you minimize a lot of your time, or sometimes even just cancel those meetings if you don't have any important thing to discuss, because meetings are meant to be productive, and if they are not, it's just a waste of time. The next common time waster is disorganized space. If you have a cluttered desk or home, you would spend a lot of time searching for things. This is when you waste your time. Like, for example, you spend 10 minutes searching for keys to your car, or maybe you couldn't find your important diary you were writing some notes on. So when you have a cluttered desk or home, It also adds more stress in your life, and then you waste your time searching for things which you could have otherwise in front of you if you had an organized space. So it's important to set maybe weekly time or monthly time to tidy up your space, and you will see how much more productive it makes you, because a clean and organized space means you don't have to waste your time searching for things. The next common time waster is complaining instead of finding solutions. It's easy to vent about problems, but does complaining really help? The answer is no. Studies suggest that frequent complaining rewires your brain to be more negative. And complaining also means you're dwelling on the problem rather than finding a solution. So if you're spending that time in finding the solution, then only you're making good use of your time. Otherwise, you're only getting more negative and you are getting stuck in overthinking or just replaying all those issues that you're having in your life, only making your problems look bigger and bigger. So you need to shift your mindset from complaining mode to a solution mode. Every time you have complaints, think about how you could overcome them. Maybe there are steps you can take. Write down all those small steps and start making progress. That will be far better than just complaining about those things. The next common time waster is still doing the manual work which can be automated. There are so many tools available to us that could help significantly cut down on the time we are spending on manually doing things. Like for example, if you have to write emails and you spend about 30 minutes writing them, you could use a common tool like ChatGPT, which is available free of cost, to write that for you, and instead of spending 30 minutes you might just be spending 5 minutes telling it about what it's going to be like, and then another 4 or 5 minutes in making some edits into that email and send it. I have been able to save a lot of time in this because I needed to send a lot of emails, and this has really helped. And likewise, I started using tools to post on different social media platforms. If I were to do it manually, I would be doing all that repeated tasks which is not making me learn anything, and I would just be spending that time on it simply. But I use an automation tool that schedules all the different posts across platforms, and they get automatically posted without me having to log in separately and copy paste and send them. And likewise, there are email automation tools, and then even if you're using some tools, there are shortcuts to save more time. I use Excel shortcuts, for example, and that helped me save a lot of my time. Or I even use macros. You would find someone to create macros which basically automate the repeated task on Excel. And likewise, you would find different tools for the different kind of task you do in the day. And this can make you significantly more productive, even 10 to 20 times more productive. I talked about this briefly in my productivity videos you might want to check out, because being more productive also means saving a lot of your time. The next common time waster is thinking about what other people think of you. Worrying about what other people think of you is a huge mental drain and a time waste. A study from the Journal of Social Psychology found that people overestimate how much other people think of them, and this is also known as the spotlight effect. The reality is, most people are so consumed in their own lives that they barely pay attention to what you have to say or what you are doing. But we, in our mind, because we are the main character of life, we think that people are thinking about us, what we are saying, and they are focusing too much on it. They may think about it for 5 minutes and then they would forget because they are now busy in their own life. So if you spend a lot of time thinking about what other people are going to think of you, you're wasting a lot of your time because it is just not as important. The next common time waster is doing low value tasks yourself rather than delegating them. Delegation is an important time management strategy. With this, you could free up a lot of your time and workload, and you could actually invest that time on more important things or things that actually require your creativity or your expertise. Now, for example, in my case, I'm more focused on creating content, learning, reading books, and sharing all that knowledge with you. And editing the video is probably not an important thing. It may be a good skill, but something I don't really require much, especially if most of the editing just involves, adding some music in the background, removing some unwanted, maybe small errors that are made. Those things can actually be delegated, and that's why I actually export this or outsource this to someone else. So they are doing the editing work for me, and I'm not spending those 2 or 3 hours in editing. I'm rather spending that on reading another book or gaining more knowledge or simply creating another video. And likewise, in your work, it could be, let's say, small admin works or repetitive tasks. You may actually give that to someone else who have more capacity in your team, or you could even hire people. And this is how even most businesses work. They have teams to take the workload and divide it among people, and this way you are focusing on what you are best at, and rather than wasting your time on things which aren't really of high value to you. We have now come to the final one, which is lack of prioritization. Prioritization is an effective time management strategy. I even talked about it in the Eisenhower metrics video. You might want to check it out here. In the Eisenhower metrics, we basically organize the different tasks in the day, week or month or even a year, like it could be different time range, based on their importance and urgency. The most important and urgent ones should be the ones you should be focusing on more, or the first thing in the day. And then you could also be just getting rid of the ones which are not important and not urgent, because these are simply not adding any value in your life. I would really suggest you check out this video, but essentially, when you prioritize, you avoid spending time on things that don't really matter. Now take for example, you have two tasks. One is you want to clean up your email so it looks more organized. Another is you need to send a report to a client by 2 p.m. and it's 11 a.m. right now. And you maybe start by cleaning up your email because it feels like an easier task to do. And you maybe, without realizing, overspend time on it. Maybe you spend 2 hours on it, and now you have just 1 hour for making that report. So you spend more time on thing that was less important, and you had less time to do on a thing which was more important. And this is what lack of prioritization does. But when you know your priorities, you know which task you need to tackle first, and when you are making progress on them, you are making bigger progress towards your goals. And that's about it. Time is an invaluable asset, we all know that, and wasting it should be the last thing we want to do. So hopefully with this video you were able to identify some of the common time wasters in your day, and realizing it will help you minimize your time on those. And this way you will free up more of your time to do things that are more important in your life. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, because I'll be sharing more of these videos focused on self-growth and personal growth.